Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The Israeli military killed at least 61 Palestinians in Gaza and wounded 2,700 others for protesting Monday's opening of the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem, as well as the Israeli occupation. Among the victims shot dead by an Israeli sniper was 30-year-old Fadi Abu Salmi, who used a wheelchair and had both his legs amputated. Another victim was 8-month-old Leila Al-Ghandor, who died early this morning after inhaling tear gas fired by the Israeli military. Tear gas was being dropped by drones. Palestinian leaders are accusing the Israeli military of carrying out war crimes during Monday's crackdown. This is Palestinian chief negotiator Saeb Erekat.
We witnessed today the killing and slaughtering of dozens of our people in the Gaza Strip at the hands of the Israeli army, an act that tantamount to a war crime, which we condemn with the strongest possible terms and urge the international community to move to provide international protection for our people. At the same time, we witnessed the movement to the American embassy to Jerusalem, which is an act that tantamount to putting the cornerstone of a new settlement outpost in the occupied Palestinian land. Moving the embassy, now we have a new settlement outpost called American Embassy.
Palestinians across the West Bank and Gaza have launched a general strike today to protest the killings. This is Bethlehem resident Mahar Kanawati.
Today is a total strike here in Bethlehem for the 70 years Nakba in Palestine. Also, we have strike today due to the fact that yesterday in Gaza there were over 52 martyrs and over 2,400 injured in a peaceful demonstration against the move of the American embassy to Jerusalem.
Today's general strike comes on the 70th anniversary of the Nakba, or the Day of Catastrophe, when more than 700,000 Palestinians were forced to flee or were expelled from their homes. The Israeli military's massacre of Palestinians Monday sparked widespread international condemnation. South Africa's also recalled its ambassador to Israel. Turkey has recalled both its ambassadors to Israel and the United States and has declared 3 days of mourning starting Friday. Meanwhile, the United States blocked a UN Security Council statement calling for an independent investigation into the killings. This is Ravina Shamdasani, a spokesperson for the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights.
We've been seeing the shocking killing of dozens of protesters and the injury of hundreds of others in Gaza today by Israeli live fire. These outrageous human rights violations must be brought to account. Those who are responsible must be brought to account, and there must be justice for the victims. The High Commissioner for Human Rights is calling on the international community to ensure that the victims of these human rights violations receive justice.
In the United States, young Jewish demonstrators marched through the streets of Washington, D.C. to protest against the opening of the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem and the Israeli military's massacre Monday. This is protester Sarah Sandmel.
We're here building an embassy of freedom to show that we as young American Jews do not stand with the embassy move from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. We believe that that's an embassy that represents endless occupation, and we want to stand together for freedom and dignity for all Israelis and Palestinians.
As many as 1,000 people were arrested in civil disobedience protests in cities across the United States Monday during a national day of action for the new Poor People's Campaign. On Monday, thousands of low-wage workers, clergy, and community activists participated in sit-ins, marches, and rallies in 40 states, including in Raleigh, North Carolina, where people joined hands and sang as they blocked traffic in front of the North Carolina Legislative Building. It ain't no harm in having your mind. Stay on freedom. Hundreds of people also gathered for a rally in civil disobedience in Washington, D.C., where Women's March organizer Linda Sarsour spoke out.
I come here as a Muslim because my faith teaches me that I must stand with the most vulnerable our dear brother Malcolm X said, freedom. If you're not willing to die for it, take that word out of your mouth.
That was Women's March organizer Linda Sarsour speaking in Washington, D.C. Shortly afterward, she was arrested for blocking traffic, among many others. Monday's actions come 50 years after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. launched the first Poor People's Campaign to protest economic inequality, militarism, and racial injustice. To see our full interview with the new Poor People's Campaign organizers, the Reverends William Barber and Liz Theo Harris, who were also arrested in Washington, D.C. Monday, go to democracynow.org. The New York Times is reporting a special team within the Education Department tasked with investigating fraud at for-profit colleges has been virtually eliminated, ending probes into for-profit schools where members of Education Secretary Betsy DeVos's team previously worked. Among the investigations that have ground to a halt is one into DeVry Education Group. Last year, DeVos named a former dean of DeVry as the supervisor of the team tasked with investigating this company and other for-profit college operators, including Bridgepoint Education and Career Education Corporation. Former employees of both institutions also now work for Betsy DeVos at the Education Department. DeVos has previously invested in firms that own for-profit colleges. The Catalan parliament's elected a pro-independence MP as president 7 months after Spain took direct control of Catalonia following its independence referendum.
66 votes yes, 65 votes no, and 4 abstentions. Mr. Quim Torra has had 66 votes, which means he has achieved a simple majority,
que signifiquen la majoria simple que estableix l'article 4.4 de la llei de la presidència
and according to Article 4.4, is elected President of Catalonia's
de la
Generalitat.
Generalitat de Catalunya.
Quim Torra will now succeed former Catalonia President Carles Puigdemont, who is in exile in Berlin, where he awaits a German court's decision on whether to extradite him to Spain on charges of rebellion. Other members of Puigdemont's administration have been imprisoned on charges of rebellion and misuse of public funds for having organized the independence referendum, which sparked the biggest constitutional crisis in Spain since the end of the Franco dictatorship in the 1970s. In Colombia, a new study accuses the Colombian military of executing up to 10,000 civilians, then claiming they were rebels between 2002 and 10. The practice, known as false positives, was used to boost the Army's kill statistics in the war against FARC rebels and to justify U.S. military funding for the Colombian Army. One of the study's authors said boys with disabilities were specifically targeted. Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos formerly served as defense minister from 2006 to 2009 at the height of false positive killings program. The New York Times is reporting more than 24 people have been killed by carbon monoxide poisoning nationwide since 2006 after their keyless ignition cars were inadvertently left running in garages. More than half the new cars sold in the United States now power on and off with a button rather than a key. But this technology can trick drivers into thinking the car is off when actually it's still running. Consumer advocates have called on car manufacturers to implement new safety features to prevent drivers from leaving keyless ignition cars running for hours by mistake, which can lead to the fatal carbon monoxide poisoning. And the Supreme Court has ruled in favor of death row prisoner Robert McCoy, who was sentenced to death in Louisiana after his lawyer told the jury his client had committed a triple murder, even though McCoy had always maintained his innocence. McCoy was accused of killing the mother, stepfather, and son of his estranged wife in 2008. He repeatedly told his lawyer, Larry English, he was innocent of the crimes and wanted to clear his name. But instead, his lawyer decided to pursue a different strategy, telling the jury repeatedly McCoy was guilty. In a 6-3 ruling, the Supreme Court decided McCoy now has the right to a new trial. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world.